Today is December 13th, 2022. We'll go ahead and call the school board meeting to order. But before we start, if we could, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for Terry Piton, who was a custodian at the CHS for quite a while. He recently passed away, so we could just take a brief moment to pay our respects. Appreciate it. Thank you. Our condolences go out to the family and friends. Go ahead and go with agenda item number 1, which is the adoption of the agenda as submitted. This is for possible action. A motion and a second. Any board discussion? Seeing none. Any public discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Move on to agenda item number 2. It's flag salute, which will be led by Mr. Don Creaney.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to agenda item number 3, which is the Superintendent Report. Mr. Fueling.
Thank you, President Varner. Good evening, trustees and everyone in attendance. To start the evening, we have a crew of very talented young people here from Empire Elementary School to sing us a couple festive songs. So if Mrs. Robinson is here, can lead in the kids. Is that? Yeah. Sorry. Just.
How you guys doing? Just so
Parents,
parents
if
know,
anybody wants to head over there so you can get your picture, feel free.
And
Thank
thank
you.
you, parents, for bringing them. We appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you. This was an early Christmas present for us. Thank you. Very good job. Nice job, guys.
And thank you, Ms. Robinson. Um, yeah. For the record, I apologize. There are no candy canes left, so the kids have taken all of them. Something else special this evening, and I'm gonna head on down to the podium. But we have our NASB award winners here, folks who for different reasons were recognized at the state level by the Nevada Association of School Boards for their work in supporting all of our kids one way or another. And first, if we could, I would like if Dr. Jennifer Ward could come up, because Dr. Ward was unable to make our initial meeting.
She had a good reason. She had tickets to watch Jerry Seinfeld, and I told her he was much more fun than we were.
Thanks, Ms. Renee. Recognizing the School Administrator of the Year. And so what I want to try to do right now is wink, because you know what that means, recognizing this, but I can't because it's been a long night already. So thank you and congratulations. And
Any comments from the board?
I just want to congratulate Dr. Ward. She was recognized for the improvement that she made at Fremont Elementary School, and how close they were to getting, how much they improved their star rank. I should have read what I wrote down earlier, but I don't have that. But just that, and also the other thing that really stood out in your nomination was the putting together the sworn curriculum. That was a standout. And just so the public knows that the administrator category is usually a very full category from all the districts. Everybody likes to nominate someone. So to be recognized at the state level is really great.
Any other comments? Joe?
I just like Jen to say congratulations. It was a no-brainer. You were going to win. You're tough shoes to fill. But no, I mean, all you've done for the district and for the school, and the times we've had a chance to chat and, and talk about a number of different things. I just really appreciate what you bring to this district, and I think it's well-deserved.
Yeah, I'd just like to say congratulations also, and it's well-deserved. You definitely deserve it. You've done an amazing job, and I know you've been here a long time. You've done a good job for a lot of years, and I know you'll continue as long as you're here. Thank you. Well-deserved.
Did they tell her it comes with a 10-year commitment?
No, it does not.
I would like to thank our school board for their nomination and for all of their support. I have an amazing group of people that I get to work with day in and day out that make my life so much more enjoyable and easy to have success at Fremont. I love what I do and I love who I do it for. So thank you so much.
Next, we have the amazing Mr. Rob Hostler, who I got to be a part of CMZ News, and that was absolutely impressive. And there's even more, and I've learned more since then. So, Mr. Hostler, do you want to come up and want to say a couple things? I guess you could go to the
Oh,
podium.
sure. I'd like me to say a couple of things. So this is year 31 of teaching. You've been my administrator. Jen's been my administrator. Your kids in my class. Your kids in my class. And I appreciate everything everybody's done. So this class was started by Dan Sadler and myself 7 years ago. We created it together. And what I want to say is it's important for all the board members to know that, you know, we do a morning news show to 900 people every morning. We run a live website. We do a daily podcast. We run a weekly newspaper. We do a lot of things. We all the games and events. Like tomorrow night, I'm live streaming the band concert. We did the choir concert last week. And what I want you to know is it takes every part of the chain to have something like this take place. So for example, if the school board said no, it ends. If the principal says no, it ends. If there's not a teacher to take care of a class like that's going to end, and most importantly, if you don't have students that buy into it and want to do it, it ends. So it's really important that we can continue to get support. Oh, one part that I forgot to mention is the IT department. Huge. Those guys just helped me solve a problem we've been having with the streams cutting lately. And so Mr. Ian Truesdale, who I remember is a 7th grader, by the way, came over and he was fantastic and helped us figure it out. So I really appreciate being nominated and ultimately being chosen. It's kind of embarrassing. I don't even like to go on my own news program because I like the students to be the ones that get recognized. I wish they all could be here to actually get the kudos. But anybody at any time is welcome to come in at 7:30 in the morning. Mr. Fueling's done it, and be on our morning little news show. You're welcome to come over, even if you just want to watch through the window or come in a room and sit there and watch it. It's truly amazing. The students run the whole thing. I hardly even go in the room. So I just want to say thank you one more time, and I hope to do this for several more years. So thanks, appreciate it.
Mike, I think you wanted to say something.
Mr. Hostler, I know that you're very humble, but I can't imagine things have changed, and there's a lot of things you do behind the scenes at CMS. You're one of those people that if we ever needed something, you were right there helping, whether it was finding music to play at night for the passing periods, or we had kids that needed that mentorship to get through the basketball season. And through all of that, you were always willing to step up and build great relationships with kids. And so this is well deserved.
Any other comments from the board? Laurel?
I was just going to congratulate you again and just let everyone know Mr. Hostler was recognized as the Innovative Educator of the Year for the state of Nevada. There's only one recognized, and what was outstanding in his nomination was the CMS News program that is student-run, student-led, and you actually have some fans from across the state of some board members on the committee who watched the news and really enjoyed that. So it's a little media empire at Carson Middle School that he's put together and put kids in charge of, and it's outstanding. So congratulations.
Any other comments? Joe?
Again, congratulations. I think these are the kinds of programs that excite students and excite me. I mean, because it takes what they've learned in class, gives them some real exposure to some real jobs that could potentially be out there for them. So thank you for introducing them and giving them the experience and the courage to do those things. Because as you said, it's not comfortable to, be in the limelight, and it's not comfortable for the kids. And to have a mentor like you to help guide them, kudos to you. Thank you.
So just ditto. It's awesome.
Yeah. Congratulations again. I happened when I first got on the board, came by and viewed your program. And it was very exciting to see the kids working behind in the green room or whatever. It was very, very good. And I think you've done an amazing job. Thank you. We want you to continue. Don't retire yet.
And just a note for both of those awards. So for Dr. Ward, I think the state of Nevada has like just shy of 600 schools. So 1 out of 600. And Mr. Hostler is the innovative educator. There's about 25,000 teachers in the state of Nevada. So, we're doing pretty well here, right? Also, this evening, we have recognized as the Outstanding Education Reporting for Media Award, Jessica Garcia.
Thank you. I think the school board was not going to let me get away without getting one of these. I think this was my 3rd nomination. Thank you very much. I would like to thank the school board for the honor. I very much appreciate it. I think very much so, though, that the honor really goes to my team at the appeal. They're really the ones who have helped do a lot of the hard work in editing a lot of my work. I'd also like to thank the district. You guys, every single person I have interacted with here in the district, all the schools, the principals, the administrators, you have all helped make it such a tremendous blessing to report on the district and to do every single story that I've ever done. I'm just so grateful for the opportunity that you have all given me to work here. I think most of all, probably one of the greatest opportunities I've had is to work with this fine gentleman here in the back, Dan Davis. I feel like the award should have had etched in it, and Dan Davis. He helps escort me through all the schools. Every story that I work on, just about virtually, Dan helps me with all the press releases. Literally every interview set up with, Dan helps me with. So I feel like I owe a lot of that thanks to Dan. So I want to just say thank you, every single person here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any comments from the board? I'll just say, Jessica, we appreciate your honest, fair reporting. You've always just reported things the way they are, and we appreciate that. So just keep up the good work, and we really, really appreciate you being here at every meeting. Can't say enough about that. Thank you. And I know some of it's kind of boring for you, but you sit here through the whole thing, so thank you.
Some of it's rather exciting too.
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay, and our final NASB award went to Eaglemark Savings Bank, Harley-Davidson, as Friends of K-12 Education. If you don't know, and I think you do, this group has been incredibly generous to the school district over the years. At least since I've arrived, they have donated well over $100,000 to support students in need, which is a significant amount of money that does a lot of good for our families. So if we have our reps from Eaglemark, why don't you come on up?
I like your sweatshirt.
Thank you. We got to represent the brand, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for having us tonight. It's a blessing to have an opportunity to donate within our own community. We represent Eagle Mark Savings Bank, which is also Harley Davidson Financial Services. And at Harley, we say we stand for the timeless pursuit of adventure and freedom for the soul. And I can't think of anything more that supports that than our schools. So we're very grateful to have had an opportunity to bless the school district. And it's certainly wonderful to be part of the committee that gets to enjoy these kids. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Any comments from the board real quick? Joe?
Thank you for your support of the students. You know, these are challenging times in a number of ways, and I think we have fantastic community partners, not just financially, but with a variety of activities, and you're an important part of all that. So we really thank you for supporting the students and our district.
Laurel?
Just add an additional comment on it. The awards committee was impressed with not only the number of years that you've supported the district, but the innovative support of the students who were unaccompanied minors and helping to secure stable housing for them. That was a novel and very much appreciated and needed support. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. $100,000 is a huge amount of money, so thank you guys. And if you guys could just state your name for the record, so it can be on the record, please.
Amber Kellner, Harley Davidson Financial Services.
Once again, thank you guys, and we look forward to working with you guys in the future. Appreciate it.
Then President Varner, if you wouldn't mind, if you could join me down by the podium. Oh, did I not get a picture? Oh, together. Okay, why don't we, yeah, let's do that now.
If all the award winners could come up for a photo, that'd be great. Dr. Ward, come on down.
Okay. This evening, as you know, is the last board meeting for 2 of our members. And so we have a little parting gift commemorating that time and service to the school district. First, someone who has been on the board for 4 years. A little more than 4, isn't it? A little more than 4? 6? Yeah, okay, sorry. I say you won once, but you got appointed once. Yeah, sorry. But has been quite a stabilizing force through some really difficult times for the district here over the last years. Mr. Don Carini, if you could come up here. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I just want to say thank you. It's been really an honor. I've learned way more than I ever could about schools. Um, it was great to be involved with my children, your children, everybody's kids. I encourage other parents to get involved. It's important. It's worth it. Thank you again for a wonderful 6 years of my life.
And next, we have a bit of a interesting run here for Trustee Stacy Wilkie McCulloch. So Stacy was first elected to the school board started her first term January 12th, 1999. And after serving 3 full terms, had to go. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I was thinking 12. Sorry. But then, yeah. But then was appointed back in September of 2009, and then from 2011 to now in December 2022, has served the district. So quite an expanse of time there. Stacey, if you could come down.
We'll try. It's been an amazing time. It's kind of hard to believe that in 2009, nobody applied for this job. And it was 4 o'clock. And my kids are like, "Ha, you got to go, Mom." And I'm like, "Are we sure we want to do this again after the first 4 years?" But I learned a lot, got very active in a lot of the extra boards that we get to do with the NIAA, the National School Board Association. I even got to serve in the national level for Carson. So it's been pretty impressive. But I think the big highlights that we've gotten this board has done with the Race to the Top grant. We got a lot of programs out of that. Our SROs, working with the city, our joint meetings with the city. But I guess I have to say, because the first time I served on this board, the CFO was Mr. Turley at that time, and we had a $750,000 debt in nutrition services that had to come out of general fund. And that man had the audacity to tell me that it would never be zero. And walking Mr. Fueling and a few other things and got a committee together. And last year was zero. And this year is even more than zero. So all zeros. So I'm pretty proud of that fact. I've been thankful for all the district administrators, all the kids, all the teachers that have allowed me to be in their classrooms and to participate in this activity. I've loved serving with Carson City School Board in this. I'm really looking forward to serving on the committees in a voluntary way now. I've enjoyed that in the beginning. So I think the opportunities that we have for people here in Carson City to get involved are great, and I hope everybody takes advantage of that. And I would really like to thank Renee for everything she has ever done for me to make sure that I get to the early meetings early. Well, on time, within reason. Yeah, it's a definite ish. Stacey, yeah, I'll be late for my funeral too, so I have that in my will. So it was a tough year this year, so I really do thank everybody for all their help and their support. So thank you.
Hey, Rich, can I just
You bet you can say
say something
anything.
real quick?
Yes.
Big surprise, I want to say something. No, I just wanted to congratulate and thank Dawn and Stacy. It's honestly been my honor to serve with each of you. You know, Stacy, when I moved to Carson City in 1996, I was, still getting my feet under me in 99. And I vaguely remember you being on the school board and, God, 20-something years later, here you still are. And I got the opportunity to serve with you. So thanks for all you've done for the school district and for the community. I mean, you're active, you're involved, you're caring, you're supportive, and I really appreciate all those attributes about you. So it's been an asset having you on the board. It'll be a loss not to have you, but we'll still see you around, and I hope you'll continue to be involved. And Dawn, I've remember you back in the days of band when my kids were going through it as well as yours, and got to serve with you on the board as well. And again, yeah, you're very even-keeled, bring a sense of logic and understanding and compassion to the school board. And I really appreciate the time we got to serve together as well. So I wish you the best of luck, and it's been my honor to serve with both of you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Mike?
It's just one of the things that I think is going to be so weird is we've had the same board for so long that, one of the nice things about this board, and both of you contribute to this, is even when we don't agree, we agree to disagree. And we're professional and we're respectful of each other and we work through differences. And so I hope that who replaces you both adopts that same spirit and we have the same representation for Carson City. So you've served Carson City well, so thank you.
Yes. Laurel?
I was just going to say, well said by both of you. It's been an honor to serve with you. Might not see you at the pool as much, Dawn, running that Colorado machine, but I'm sure you'll be volunteering, both of you, in lots of future capacities as well. So thank you.
I'll just add to that. Thank you also. I've only been on the board for 4 years, but Stacy and Dawn, you both helped me out along the way. I've been able to ask for advice, and you guys have always been there for me, and I appreciate it. And I don't want to get sad about it, but we will miss both of you, and hopefully we'll see you on different committees in the future. So thank you for your tenure here, and we will miss you. Thank you. Go ahead, Lupe.
I also want to give my 2 cents here. No, okay. Well, Stacy, I really, really want to appreciate everything you've done for me. I thank you for your mentorship, for your leadership, and I just want to say I have admired your work ethic and everything you've done for this board, and I just hope to be able to continue contributing what you taught us. I thank you very much for all your dedication to the children and to the staff in the district. And Don, I also want to thank you. You are an amazing individual. I've learned a lot from you too, and you guys welcomed me with open arms when I joined the board. And I just want to say thank you for everything you've done for the board and for all of us. So appreciate it, and best of luck in your future endeavor.
Thank you. All right. Go ahead.
Just a couple things. Just a couple last things. There will be for Carson High and Pioneer, there's an early release day on Tuesday, December 20th. On Wednesday, December 21st, that is a minimum day for all schools. And then we have a nice long winter break from December 22nd through January 6th, and classes then resume on January 9th. That is all.
Thank you very much for your report. We'll go ahead and move on to agenda item number 4, which is board reports. This information only. We'll start with Carson High. Anybody from Carson High? Seeing no one. Does anybody have a report from Carson High? Guess not. Anybody here from Pioneer Academy? Seeing no one. Yeah, the finals are coming up, so I understand. Any update on the Nevada Association of School Boards?
I think we're gearing up for the legislative session, and Lola and I are working with Rick to schedule a Zoom new board member orientation sometime the first week of January is what we're planning right now. So that newly elected members who might not have known when we had the conference can still get some orientation before they start their terms.
Thank you. And we might mention that you were recently elected vice president of NASB, is that correct? Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and start with just our regular board reports then. Joe, do you have any?
I do not have a report tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Walker? Stacy?
We had a joint meeting with the Carson Parks and Rec Commission and the Open Space last Tuesday. Went over some of the trail stuff and looking at what we might be doing with some of the parks that we're taking the playground equipment out with. We're having a strategic planning meeting on Friday with both groups to go forward with that. And then they should have by next year the Mills Park master plan all figured out. Oh, and then I served my last governor's advisory on family engagement, and they are working on redoing the policy and working on legislation. So if there's anybody that wants to get involved with that, just go to the website. There's a way to get into the survey and put your 2 cents in there too.
Thank you. Don?
From Dr. Lee Conley at Eagle Valley Middle School. A lot going on at the end of the semester here. Lego Robotics. The all-girls team won first place out of 22 teams in the regional qualifier on December 3rd. This team will compete at the championships on February 4th, which will be hosted at Eagle Valley Middle School. A special thanks to all the coaches, Tucker, Ritter, and Fernandez. The PTO has sponsored a winter dance, which is Wednesday, December 14th at 5:30 to 7 p.m. tomorrow. $5 includes pizza, cookie, and a drink. You must have good behavior to attend. The Winter Band Orchestra Choir Concert is this Thursday, December 15th. It begins at 6 p.m. at Eagle Valley. And next week, there'll be dress-up days starting Monday, December 19th, will be Ugly Sweater Day. December 20th, Winter Holiday Characters. Wednesday, December 21st, Pajama Day. All must be school appropriate and no slippers. Sorry about that. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Lupe?
I do have a report from Robert Chambers from Carson High School. Carson High School had a visit from the Chamber of Commerce Leadership Institute. They toured the CTE programs to gain a better understanding of what the CTE offers our community. Carson High School received high praise from the Leadership Institute participants. Carson High School Choir is currently caroling around the district. This is a time-honored tradition, and Carson City School District is extraordinary lucky to have such a talented students and staff. First semester finals will start Friday, December 16, and run through the 21st. It is imperative that students attend the classes and take their finals. And we definitely want to, I want to reiterate the importance of the parents getting involved in making sure that their students get a good night rest and be ready to give it their best in their finals. And then I also want to give a big shout out to Ananda Campbell and Sarah Billings for helping us At the last PLC meeting that we had, they contributed to the parent engagement component to make some major edits. The group was led by Dan Davis, and it was a wonderful working group. But I particularly want to thank Ananda and Sarah for their strong contribution in helping us edit that important segment of our strategic plan. So thank you. And I want to wish everyone Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad y Feliz Año Nuevo.
Thank you. Laurel?
Mr. Brown from Fritsch Elementary School would like to wish all of his students and staff a wonderful holiday season. And Dr. Ward from, did I say Fremont and I meant to say Fritsch? Fritsch, I said Fritsch, okay. Dr. Ward from Fremont wants to share that they are proud of their students' efforts on the MAP tests, and they too are looking forward to 2023. And so, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone.
Thank you very much. I received an email yesterday from Carrie Finn from Pioneer Academy, where she advised that she'd received an email from the National Educational Association that she has been nominated to represent the educational support professionals from the state of Nevada and Nevada State Education Association in an all-expense-paid trip in March of 2023 to Seattle, Washington. So that's a great honor for her, and hopefully she can come away with a win up there. So that's great. I just wanted to put that out. From Boardwalk Bray, they wanted to thank the Carson High School Band and Chamber Choir who came to Boardwalk to play and sing Christmas songs for them yesterday. Next Tuesday, we'll have their band and choir concert beginning at 6 p.m. with the band, and then choir at 6:45. They have several dress-up days coming up. Friday, December 16th is holiday attire. Wear your holiday shirts, headwear, and socks. Monday, December 19th is a dress as your favorite holiday movie character. Tuesday, December 20th is Ugly Sweater Day. And Wednesday, December 21st is Pajama Day. From Carson Middle School, they wanted to report that as a new administrative team, they have spent the first semester listening to staff, students, and school community inform our school about their school improvement plan. We're looking forward to implementing our multi-tiered system of support that includes a positive behavior reward process. They are continuing to dive deeper into Abbott, instruction strategies in classroom, and to strengthen their focused note-taking process school-wide to make school more relevant and meaningful to their students. And they are looking forward to the second semester. They also wanted to state that they enjoyed a great concert performed by their musical theater and choir classes last week. And then tonight, it's already started, their orchestra class is performing at the community center at 6:30, so it's in progress now. Then on Thursday, they look forward to hearing their band play at Carson Middle School starting at 6:30 p.m. I've been to those concerts before in the musical theater programs, and they always do a wonderful job. So if anybody can attend, I know they'll have a great time. And that's the end of my report. Thank you. Do we have any association reports? Mr. Brian Wallace?
Brian Wallace, OCA President. President Varner, trustees, echoing what everyone has already said about Trustee Wilkie and Trustee Carini. The association, and Carrie probably won't mind if I speak on her behalf too, but for all of us, because it's been teamwork, we appreciate all the stability. It's awesome to have a school board that has a longevity problem, like our school district has a longevity problem. Term limits are always up for debate, and as a history teacher at times, I'm like, oh, this may be a time in which we didn't have term limits because of the stability we've had with the district at this point. But then we also are always going to look forward to new and fresh ideas. But for the two of you, we sincerely appreciate your time and dedication to this. We know it's not easy to come in on basically a volunteer basis. We know you get a stipend, but we all know it doesn't cover all the additional duties any of you do and especially for the two of you and the amount of time you've been on this board. So thank you again for always looking out for the students, number one, helping make staff number two, since that's the order we want to achieve in this district, and continue to make us one of the highlights, if not the highlight of Nevada and within the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. I appreciate it. We'll go ahead and move on to public comment. We accept comment via email up to noon on the day of the board meeting, and I've been advised that we have not received any. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Varner. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move, like I said, move on to public comment. What we'd ask is if you come to the podium, either if signed in if already, hopefully, if not, come up, state your name. And people are reminded that you have 3 minutes to make your presentation and not simply repeat something somebody else said. So if we have any public comment, please come forward now. And then state your name for the record.
Stella Thornton for the record. I am a Nevada youth legislator and the student representative on the Family Life Advisory Committee. What I'm doing public comment for at this moment in time is I came before you all March 22nd, 2022, I think was when I made my presentation about concussions and TBIs and my AP research project. I think that hopefully you all remember that. I since then became a Nevada youth legislator for Senate District 16, and I've gone through months of meetings to be able to have my bill draft chosen to represent the Nevada Youth Legislature in the 83rd legislative session. It went from 19 bill drafts to 7 bill drafts to 2 bill drafts to my final bill draft. It was, I swear I could be paid to do this job. I think I might have spent a little bit more time on youth legislator stuff than I spent sleeping or on schoolwork. I will admit that. But honestly, I had to take a couple mental health days from school because afterwards I was so shot I couldn't have gone to school. But I think overall I'm so excited to be able to do this. I'm so excited to be able to work with you all. Mr. Fewing has been amazing working with him, and I'm just the support that I have from UNR and from Washoe County School District, the support that I'm garnering from Clark County School District, from the athletic trainers that I've talked to, from teachers that I've spoken with. It's absolutely amazing. And I wanted to come up here and let you all know that, like, you know, the school district and what you have done, being able to support me on all of this has made it possible for me as a student to be able to have these amazing opportunities. So I wanted to thank you all for that, and hope that you will all look forward to hopefully seeing my bill pass in this next legislative session. So thank you.
Thank you, Laurel.
I'm just going to say something. I know we don't usually, but I hope that you do get paid, because I hope that you write this experience up in your college applications and scholarship
Oh, believe me, I
applications.
have.
And this is good stuff for you. So best of luck in your future.
Yeah, thank you. You're a very impressive young lady. Appreciate it. Thank you. Any other public comment this time? Okay, seeing no further public comment, we'll go ahead and close public comment. We'll move on to agenda item number 7, presentation and possible action on the fiscal year 2022 annual independent audit and report on financial statements as required by NRS 354.624. And this is for possible action. And we have Spencer Woodward and Dave Silva, I understand, is not feeling well tonight. So Spencer, it's up to you.
It is. Dave sends his regards and apologizes he couldn't be here. But don't worry, he deputized me. So did you know you could do that via email? So with that being
Good
said,
to know.
we'll get right to the meat of the audit. We'll do it the good, the bad, and the ugly. But I'm going to go in reverse order of what I've said there. So nice thing about the ugly is there's none. The audit was a clean, unmodified opinion, what we like to see. Nothing bad there. The bad, we did have one little thing that I want to bring to your attention. It's on page 50, and its entirety can be found in note 2. I'll go ahead and just read that for you. It's very brief. It says, the district conformed to all significant statutory constraints on its financial administration during the year, with the possible exception of an apparent overexpenditure in the debt service fund of $30,000. While this appears to be a potential violation of NRS 354.626, this overexpenditure occurred because of an error in transaction processing by the district's fiscal agent. And what happens is we had $30,000 of impact fees that should come to us as a revenue. And at the point that we discovered that those had accidentally been swept up to the state with PCFP funds, they were recorded as an expense. So that's where that comes from. We've been in touch with the city, and they've been in touch with state officials to work on having those funds returned to us. And ultimately, we'll probably end up in just restating that fund balance at audit time next year. So not a huge deal, but want to bring it to attention because it is a potential violation of the budget because it appears as an over expenditure on our financials at this time, when in all reality it is not.
Ms. Spencer, do you mind if I just chime in? Because I'm sure there's a question about
What's
this.
your email address? Let me deputize you quick.
Yeah, thanks. And when this came up, I realized that I'm not sure if you all are aware of this. I don't know if this has ever really come up before. So the city, when they receive our the debt service tax levy as that comes in, unlike prior to the PCFP with the operating tax levy, and they would send those funds to us, they have always held on to those funds. And then when we have bond payments, they actually make those payments for us. So that is an option within NRS that at some point in our history, and I don't know when it started, that we had that arrangement with the city that has been going on. So within their own accounts, there was this transaction that they sent these funds that they shouldn't have sent, but the way it ends up being recorded is what we have here. So
Thank you. It's kind of a combination of the PCFP being new on funds that used to come our direction, go directly to the state now, and they just kind of got swept up with that, with new system, new employees, and a couple different organizations. So any questions about that? All righty.
I had a question, I'm sorry. Is this, we had I just can't remember, we had a similar occurrence last year. Is this part of that, or is this something separate?
this is something separate, and that's it's a little bit frustrating on my side. At the same time, I can understand on the city side how this mistake could have occurred. This is not a fund that we record financial transactions on throughout the year. At the end of the year, around October, the city lets us know here's what the transactions were, and that's it. And the fiscal year is already over, and so that's the downside of allowing the city to, or I guess the city generously doing this for us and housing these funds and making those payments, is that we haven't seen those transactions then hit during the year to say, hey, this doesn't look quite right. So many of the other funds that they do collect now, like that property tax, they're sending them off to the state. Everything gets off to the state. And this $30,000-ish, this is from the Lampa Ranch project. This is for every permit that's pulled, the district receives $1,000 to help offset our costs to potentially purchase land. And so in that moment of all these other funds that they were sending off, they sent this too, and that shouldn't have happened.
All righty. Thank you, Mr. Hewling. That's it for the bad. So the good, page 117 kind of has the rundown of the thing. And as I mentioned earlier, it's an unmodified opinion, which is what we seek after every year. And as you kind of continue down there, there's no material weaknesses found, no findings, which always good news, makes me smile. I sleep well at night knowing that. And last thing I'd just like to mention is the general fund balance. We ended up with about a $990,000 increase to our general fund balance. So which, given the economic uncertainty of times, I think that's a good position to be in. And any further questions regarding the audit?
Any questions from the board? Laurel?
Just with that one, the potential over expenditure by the fiscal agent, is there corrective action and plan to make sure that we don't have the city sending off our money again.
It will not require a corrective action. We've reviewed our practices to kind of figure out what can we do. And I've got some appointments set with the city, so we can kind of discuss with them a couple of the things to say, to see if we can maybe get a little bit of increased transparency to the process with that, so that, because we definitely don't want it to happen again.
Any other, Mike, go ahead.
I was just gonna move that we accept the audit report as submitted.
You have a second? Joe? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any board discussion about the motion? Seeing none, any public comment or questions about the motion? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you,
Thank you.
Spencer. We'll go ahead and move on to agenda item number 8. Discussion and possible action to select one parent representative to serve a 3-year.
President Varner, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
One of our student representatives just showed up. Would it be out of line to hear her report, or?
No, she can do her report.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't mean to interrupt. I just
No,
saw
I
her walk
appreciate it.
in.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
You state your name for the record, please.
I'm Ava Schofield, and I'm the representative from Carson High. And so all that we have going on right now is our winter sports just started. So that's girls and boys basketball and wrestling and ski teams. And then today, tomorrow, and Thursday, we have our cookies and cream, which is for the freshmen and sophomores, where they can go get help studying for their finals as we start the final process the end of this week and next week. And then next week we have a holiday spirit week. So on Monday we're doing a pajama day. Tuesday is like a holiday sock day. And then Wednesday is ugly sweater day. So, and that's it. So thank you.
Thank you for coming down. Appreciate it. We'll go ahead and move on to agenda item number 8 now. Discussion and possible action to select one parent representative to serve a 3-year term, December 2022 to December 2025, on the Carson City School District Family Life Advisory Committee. And this is for possible action, and it's going to be presented by Sheila Story and Cheryl Macy. Thank you.
Good evening, President Varner, Mr. Fueling, members of the board. Tonight you have a position open for the Family Life Advisory Committee. This is the position that is currently served by Mr. Dan Thornton. There was a notice published in the Nevada Appeal on October 22nd, and a parent square notice was sent out on October 31st. And we have 2 candidates for you here tonight, Mr. Dan Thornton and Miss Christine Sylvester.
Thank you very much. I think if they want to come and give an opening statement, what I'd want to recommend and throw out to the board is, we've heard from Mr. Thornton in the past, and we've interviewed Christine just recently. If we could bypass the maybe interview section and just make a selection, and I think Laurel has an idea that she may want to present also. Yeah, let's have the statement first then. So if you want to come up to the table, Mr. Thornton.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Appreciate the time that you put into our students in our school district. I feel like we've made some strides with the Family Life Advisory Committee in the last 3 years that I've been on it. I would look forward to continuing to help us improve and increase the toolbox that we can give our educators for the improvement of health education for our students. And I honestly feel like we are advising you on what could potentially be the most important decision that these students make in their entire life. That's what I feel like. That's what I feel like we're doing. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Christine Sylvester, you want to come up? Dan, why don't you just go ahead and stay there if you don't mind?
Christine Sylvester, for the record.
Is that on?
Is it on?
Okay.
Okay. I applied for the Family Life Committee, Advisory Committee, as an opportunity to serve my community and get more involved in my daughter's education. My family is young. They have yet to go into the program as it's presented within our school district. And I view this as an opportunity to educate myself and to ensure that our children are getting the information that they need to make critical life choices. These are decisions that can completely change an individual's life. And it's important that the material that's presented be factual and clear on what the options really are and what the consequences could be without being traumatizing, or everything needs to be age appropriate and well thought out. And I really look forward and get excited about thinking about these topics and discussing them and sharing them with other parents. And so it's a part of my education that that I haven't used in a while. At one point in time, I reviewed the material that's up for approval tonight, and in the contraceptive video, there's the ring contraceptive. I actually worked on the preclinical crew that did the trials for that contraceptive before it became available to the public. And so I got really excited seeing that we are trying to tell people about these things. And so, yeah, I just really look forward to being able to serve my community and ensure that the education in the community my children are in is the best that it can be. Thank you.
Thank you. Like I said, if it's okay, the board to bypass the official interview process, but if anybody has any questions they want to ask before Laurel speaks. Seeing none. Laurel, go ahead.
I think we have two very good candidates. I appreciate Mrs. Sylvester, you coming back, because sometimes those interviews can be intimidating and people don't often want to volunteer after they go through the process one time. So I appreciate your willingness to come back. My thought process is I'm leaning towards Mr. Thornton because I know he's the only male serving on the committee, and I think that it is important to have that perspective. But I'm wondering if we can't do something like appoint an alternate so that in the event that some of the, a voting member is unable to attend, the committee could still have a quorum and the alternate could fill in. And if that's a possibility, something that the board might be interested in.
Mike?
Would that require a policy change?
No, not in my opinion. I looked through the statute, and the mandate of the makeup of the committee is very specific, I think, and it doesn't prohibit the appointment of an alternate. And so this appears to me as a way to ensure the committee is always properly compiled when it's operating. So having an alternate in place, I think, is in line with the spirit of the statute. I also went through the policies and procedures of the committee. Nothing in there prohibits the appointment of an alternate. In fact, the committee has even chosen to appoint 4 non-voting pupils to the committee, I believe, which again, I think is directly in line with the spirit of the statute.
Mike?
I just think that's a great idea. I think this is one of those areas that's very controversial. And even though families opt in, you know, people have a lot of interest in this. And so I think that having the experience and the input of as wide of a selection as we can, and I know, you know, I've worked with Mr. Thornton and his family, and you sound very knowledgeable. So I think both of you would be an asset to that committee. So I'm not opposed to that.
Good. Stacy, do you have something?
Just a point of clarification, we're not appointing the alternative today, though, right? Because we don't have that on the agenda.
My opinion is the way the agenda is written, because there are the appointment of one rep, but we did have 2 applications. I think it would be a conditional motion to appoint the rep on the condition that there's also a backup appointed.
I see no other comments right now, but Ms. Sylvester, I appreciate your willingness to serve and to come back again. And we didn't want to put you through another, I didn't at least, put you through another interview because we just heard from you, what, a month or so ago, maybe 2 months ago. But I think that's a great idea, and I would support, reappointing Mr. Thornton and appointing you as the alternate. You could attend all the meetings, and then you would have, if someone wasn't there, I guess she would have the right to vote right at that time.
Just to make sure, because it makes me a little nervous when Stacy brought up the agenda, could we bring back the alternate or because I don't want to, I don't know, then we would reopen the whole.
No, you can. It is certainly an absolutely conservative and appropriate interpretation of the open meeting law that you would bring it back. I think there's flexibility there because people are on notice of who these 2 applicants are with the publication of the materials. So I think a conditional approval with the caveat of an alternate is okay. I also have no issue if you want to bring it back. That's going to avoid any scrutiny.
Mike?
I guess the question is for Ms. Sylvester, because we don't get to just say you
Yeah,
gotta
I
be an
know.
alternate. I mean, are you interested in doing something like that? You would, as an alternate, I could imagine you would have the same opportunities to give input in those meetings as any of us would be, or any
That
public.
sounds like an exciting opportunity, actually, to feel like a part of the committee. But if I had a kid who got the flu, it wouldn't be critical for me to stay home. Because like that's what I've been doing for the last week and a half, is dealing with flu A. So those things happen, and that sounds like, as an engineer, you always put in safeguards and you always overbuild things, and that's exactly what this is you have yourself a backup plan. Yes, it is.
President Varner, may I interject a little bit?
Sure.
Thank you. So historically, in the past, we have had 1 or possibly 2 meetings per year. Unfortunately, we did not have a quorum, so I think this is a good idea. Also, I do want to let you know that at the end of this school year, we will have another parent position opened at the 2023, and we'll also be having a counseling position open. Their terms will be up at the end of this school year.
Thank you. What's the board's desire, I guess?
I mean, I think hearing that, I guess another thought I would have is that when a parent position opens, that the alternate would fill that vacancy. So, I mean, if we're going to do that, because Ryan, go ahead, give me feedback.
So we can't make that decision tonight. That's definitely not on the agenda, but it would make sense from a practical standpoint that you would have knowledge of the person applying if they were already sitting as an alternate, but we can't make that formal decision tonight.
Joe?
I guess I just want to be careful, and I'm a little concerned that if we're picking alternates, we're not kind of inadvertently front-loading a committee and inadvertently precluding other people who might want the opportunity to run to have that opportunity. So I know we're not going to be going down that road tonight, but it makes me a little nervous. I think when we talk about being opened up for scrutiny, that there's going to be some folks concerned about that.
But I would just say, I mean, this was in the newspaper. So, I mean, it was open for anybody to apply. So, I mean, these are the 2 applicants we have. So, I mean, I don't know that we would keep it open in case somebody wants to apply later. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I don't necessarily mean for this round. I'm just thinking down the road.
Well, it would be opened up for anybody else to apply at that time when the openings came up.
So part of our conversation, because I haven't really chimed in yet, is we have two candidates, one that's already on the committee and one that's interested. We're gonna vote tonight to select one of the two candidates. Right, well, we're not gonna vote on are we gonna vote on the alternative tonight or no? Okay,
It is a possibility we could do that according
Okay.
to Mr. Russell.
I do think you can.
So any other discussion at this time, Laurel?
I was just going to say there, I didn't realize we also had another parent opening at the end of the school year. So in January, probably our first meeting in January, are we going to have more parent applicants as well? So would it be cleaner for the agenda to appoint one parent representative and then have a second parent representative and include something about an alternate in that meeting?
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely be a cleaner record, and when you published for applicants, you could also notify that you're going to be accepting applications for alternates as well, or an alternate.
did you say the end of the calendar year or school year?
School year.
Sheila Story for the record. I believe this position will end at the end of this school year.
Not in January or not in
Correct.
December.
Correct.
That changes things, yeah.
That's a little bit longer time period than what I was thinking of. I was thinking this year. I do like a clean record, so it makes me, but I also trust our attorney. So I'm just figuring how we want to work this.
Well, and Stacy's right, it is an absolute cleaner record to just vote on the one parent tonight. You could agendize appointment of an alternate in January and repost through however this position was posted so that people have an opportunity, and that would create a very clean record.
Go ahead.
Do we really want to ask Ms. Sylvester to come back to
Yeah,
a third
yeah.
school board meeting in a row about this? I mean, she's volunteering to serve. I think that where we get in trouble is if we didn't allow members, we didn't give the opportunity for people to apply and show interest, and we just pick somebody. That's not what happened. This is a transparent process that we've advertised, we've solicited participants, and so it's not like this is just somebody's coming out of the background and we're just appointing them. These are people who are in our packets. This is her second time here. I would really, if I was her, I'd be like, that's a waste of my time to go to 3 board meetings about this. I mean, just personally speaking.
Don?
I agree with Mike. I mean, you're both excellent candidates for this. I appreciate that you're here to volunteer for this. You've been here twice. You've proven an excellent candidate. I wish we could put you both on this committee in full voting rights, but yeah, I would be in favor of adding Ms. Sylvester as an alternate tonight.
Any other board discussion? If not, I'd accept a motion.
I'm not making a motion yet, but I just want to reiterate, I think both candidates are excellent. I've kind of listened to just our discussion and we kind of went, they're just opinions, so I'm fine with it, but we've kind of had that foredrawn conclusion that Ms. Sylvester is going to be the alternate. And I want to be clear that they're both viable candidates. And I don't want to, I don't want her to show up and think, nothing taking away from Mr. Thornton as well. I think, you've served well and this is a volunteer position and it doesn't come without its bumps and bruises. So I appreciate what you both bring to this committee. I just, I voted last time for Ms. Sylvester and I liked her candidacy and I'd like to see her on the board, or excuse me, on the committee.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, Mike?
I guess I'm prepared to make a motion. I just would want Dan or Ryan to tell me what was the caveat you said we would want to put in that motion?
So if you want to tell me what order you'd like, I can help you craft the motion.
Well, I mean, I was gonna nominate Dan and Ms. Sylvester as the alternate.
So it would be a motion to appoint Dan Thornton to a 3-year term on the Family Life Committee as a parent representative, with the condition that Ms. Sylvester is appointed as a non-voting alternate.
Get that, Renee?
So we have a motion, it sounds like. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Don. Any board discussion about the motion?
I feel, like I stated before, I just feel like we didn't agendize this properly, and nothing against either candidate. But I will go with the board, but I do want to tell you I'm uncomfortable doing it with an alternative in the process.
Okay, thank you.
I was just going to say on the motion, I trust Mr. Russell, but I also really like it being clean, and so I'm leaning with Stacy. So I am in agreement with that. I just kind of want the caveat that we do the appointment, and maybe you don't have to come back. Maybe it's just a thing that we do at the next meeting to have it be agenda-sized, that we're.
The thing with that is you're going to have 2 new members that haven't interviewed Ms. Sylvester either.
And you might also have other people who apply and then she's not here. I mean, I stand by my motion. I think it's appropriate. I trust Ryan.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
I trust Ryan too.
I trust Ryan too, but this is my last meeting. I don't want an open meeting violation on my last meeting.
Any public comment reference the motion? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. We got 1 nay, 6 ayes and 1 nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Congratulations, guys, and thank you for your willingness.
Thank you very
to
much.
serve.
Thank you to both of you.
Yeah, thank you both for.
At this time, we're going to take a small recess. We have a lot of more information to go through, so I've been requested to have a break at this time, so about a 5 or 7 minute recess. Thank you. ahead and call the school board back to meeting back to order. Time is 7:28 PM. We'll move on to agenda item number 9, the annual report from the CCSD Family Life Advisory Committee for the 2021-2022 school year. And this is for discussion only, and Sheila Story and Cheryl Macy will be presenting. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, President Varner and members of the board and members of the district office. My name is Sheila Story. For the 2021-2022 school year, the Family Life Advisory Committee met for a total of 5 times. Within those meetings, we went ahead and we discussed our rules and procedures. We really dove into this document, making corrections. We brought it to the board. We had meetings up at the district office. We made it from a document of over 20 pages down to a document of 10 pages. It's very precise, very clear, very easy to read and follow. Anyway, then we brought it to the board for your guys' approval. We made all of your recommended suggestions to the document, and it was approved in June of 2022. So that was our work for last year. We truly focused on this document to make it much more usable, friendly, readable, and that's what we did. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions from the board? Seeing none, thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Move on to agenda item number 10, discussion and possible action to approve CCSD Family Life material to include a video entitled Contraceptive 101 and Making Proud Choices that includes 4 videos, HIV, how to protect yourself and others sexually, how to protect yourself and others, sexually transmitted diseases, STDs, causes, signs, and symptoms, diagnosis and treatment, STD prevention beyond condoms, and birth control methods and options. And this is for possible action. And again, Sheila Story and Cheryl Macy will be presenting.
Good evening, President Varner, members of the board. Last year, when we reviewed your rules and procedures, it became clear to us that we needed to add in an element where the Family Life Advisory Committee reviews and screens materials and then votes on whether or not to recommend those materials to come to you to review and screen and vote upon. So we really have 2 chunks here of content. The first one is this video that was submitted by a Carson High School health teacher on its own, and that's the Contraceptive 101. The second set of materials is the Making Proud Choices. Previously, our district had adopted the abstinence-only portion of Making Proud Choices, which is a curriculum that's offered by our Carson City Health Department. The teacher at Carson High School had requested that we review the other portion of this curriculum, which includes the STD and birth control portions of that. And that is what is being submitted to you today. It's the second half of that. This was presented to us by Ms. Gallus, who is here with us tonight, and Dr. Lyons as well, both from the Carson City Health Department.
Mike, go ahead.
Reading through the minutes, it sounds like there was just a little bit of discussion about the Plan B and how it's categorized in the video. And what's your thoughts on that, or what did the committee discuss on that?
The committee was concerned about that. The discussion centered around the fact that we're really adopting this whole curriculum from Making Proud Choices. And this is all given by one person, Ms. Gallus. The point in question is that the video implies that the morning after pill, Plan B, is a form of birth control, which is scientifically inaccurate. And because we have one person who is going to be providing all of the information leading up to the video and clarification on the video and discussion and activities around the video, that this will be clarified with students how Plan B is actually categorized. So the committee discussed this, and when they voted on this, it was voted in the motion or included in the motion that we were adopting these materials with the caveat that it is clarified that Plan B is not a form of birth control.
Stacy?
So just for clarification, you're saying whenever any of this material from Making Better Choices is taught, it's going to be taught by that one person?
It will be taught by a representative from the health department. Mhm. Yes, and at this point, that is Ms. Gallus, but you know, positions sometimes change, but it'll always be somebody from the health department, which the discussion amongst the committee was that's doable. Asking, you know, 7 different teachers to remember to do that is different, but when it's one person and it's part of their written curriculum, that is more reliable form of clarification.
So just working through the staff issue here then. So we have 6 or 7 teachers that are teaching parts, and then the Carson City Health Department will teach that one part. Is that, I guess what I'm saying, is that do we have a MOU with that? Is it a understanding? Will it keep progressing for as long as we have these, as long as we're following these procedures or programs?
We do not have an MOU with them, and not all teachers are interested in adopting the second portion of the Making Proud Choices. It is an agreement. It's a service that the health department offers, and it has been approved. That first portion, the abstinence only, has been approved by the Family Life Advisory Committee in the past. And so some teachers would like this added section, which will cover all of the family life standards.
Just one more clarification. These videos are being recommended for use in the health classes at the high school level only?
Yes, it was articulated in the minutes that this is for high school only. And there was much discussion about whether or not it'd be appropriate at the middle school, but this was requested anyways by a high school teacher, and so we noted that this is for high school only.
Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. That was my 2 concerns were it said the creating company, you know, said it's approved by them for ages 10 to 19. And I guess if I was making a video, I might say that too. It's good business. But I like the idea of it being limited. It just seems like when I reviewed it, I'm not a medical professional, but it seemed like it was most appropriate at the high school level than for 10, 11-year-olds. I didn't really, you know, I reviewed all the videos and I didn't have a big issue with any of them. I understand some parents will get concerned, but just to clarify, this is still an opt-in. I don't want to say curriculum, but an opt-in opportunity. If, you know, if a student's not going to be exposed to this unless the parents sign a form that say, yeah, we want them to, you know, to learn about this. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board? Any questions?
I did think the videos would be appropriate for some of the middle school students. I mean, I watched Lisa Schutte with her sex education program for years, and, you know, she went into all of these things, and with Savor the Day, I walked in so the kids could teach me about whatever the topic of the day was. So, I mean, I think that this is an important service. You know, there's a lot of families who do want the schools to provide sex education. And so I think that we need to have information available for those students and those families, and for students whose parents want to do that at home. That's totally appropriate, and they can opt out of the system. So I think that we want to make sure that what we have available is accurate, appropriate, and I thought those videos were just enough information. They didn't get graphic. there wasn't anything that made me think as a teacher, my face would be red at this part. You know what I mean? I thought they were fine. They were family, student friendly, and I thought they were appropriate.
Yeah, I agree with you, and some of the concerns I had, you guys already brought up, you know, the opt-in, the high school level, for now at least, right? And then I also reviewed all the videos, and again, I thought they were pretty fact-based. There wasn't any graphic material that I didn't see, and so I really had no problem with them, and I'm glad that it's still an opt-in though for parents who may want to do that. And
One more question on that. And I, you know, personally, I agree with Mike. Like if my kids were in the class, I wouldn't have a problem with my younger kid watching these videos. There was nothing in there that made me cringe. But if we're saying this is only going to be taught at the high school, is there any mechanism that you would have to come back to us and say, you know, hey, we've changed our mind, we want to introduce this to the middle school? Or is that, once we approve this, is that now your prerogative to readjust the age range, if you will?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I was just wondering, could that be included in the motion that we're approving it for use of the high school only?
Yes.
just for clarification, we do have resources that the middle school teachers use. And we haven't had a request from the middle schools to add this curriculum to what they have to meet their standards. The committee specifically voted on this as a recommended for high school only. So from a person who is responsible for this committee, I would believe that if we were requested to have this available for middle school teachers, we would need to take it back to the committee. And if that committee voted for that, back to you.
Comment with it, when you're saying that it meets the standards, they have changed some of the health education and sex education standards. And so to add this additional information in these videos does put the high school where it should be with what it's teaching. Is that correct?
Correct.
Any other board comment? Questions?
President Varner, may I interject?
Sure.
This is Sheila Story for the record. I will say that there are parts of Making Proud Choices that have been approved for the one for the elementary level, and then the rest of them for the middle school level. Subject of purity has been approved for 5th grade up. The subject of HIV has been approved for 7th grade and up. Another video called Tasha and Shay has been approved for 7th grade and up. And STDs through Making Proud Choices have been approved through 8th grade and up. So part of them Making Proud Choices have been approved for the middle school level.
Thank you. I'd go ahead and accept a motion at this time.
Okay. I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees approve the following videos titled Contraceptive 101 and Making Proud Choices that include the following 4 videos: HIV, How to Protect Yourself and Others, Sexually Transmitted Diseases, STDs, Causes, Signs and Symptoms, Diagnosis and Treatment, STD Prevention Beyond Condoms, and Birth Control Methods and Options for High School Classes Only.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any board comment reference the motion? Seeing none, any public comment reference the motion?
I zoned off for a second. Can I just ask a quick question? It wasn't that bad. I was thinking about what I wanted to ask, and then it's not like I was napping or anything. I was just curious, you know, we have in the minutes, no public comment was offered. Was any public in attendance other than in the committee?
Yeah,
Okay.
there was one person there and there was no
Yeah,
comment.
no, that's fair. I just was curious.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and no public comment, and no further board discussion. We'll go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. I did. Yeah. Okay, all in favor say, we'll do this again. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. We'll go ahead and then move on to agenda item number 11. Discussion review for possible amendment of CCSD bylaw 050 organization. This is the first reading and this is for discussion only, and Mr. Andrew Fueling.
Thank you, President Varner. This evening, bringing this to your attention, I guess, and so we're at an interesting point in time with decisions relative to the board within the bylaws, just based upon the fact that we have a new year starting and we do have 2 new board members coming in. Under bylaw number 50, Article 5 and Section 4, I guess this is really bringing to your attention something that has been discussed a little bit by the Board of Trustees, but the idea of potentially having 1 board meeting a month instead of 2 board meetings a month. And so under Section 4, one of the things that's going to be coming up at the organization meeting, which is that first meeting in January, Section 4, Part A, designated day, place, time for regular meetings, which shall occur at least twice each month. So if at this point, based upon this language, it would not be possible to have 1 meeting a month. And so I guess I wanted to have an opportunity for you all, and this is just for discussion at this point, but an opportunity for you all to talk through that a little bit. Clearly, again, we have new board members coming here at the next meeting in January, but at least to start this discussion and see if it's something that still is of potential interest to move forward with.
Mike, go ahead.
You know, this is something I brought up for, I think, the last 2, possibly 3 years. And I think that when you really look at it, during COVID, one of the things we found is that when we use our time efficiently, we can get by with 1 meeting a month. We can consolidate what we're doing. And some of these meetings go really long, and I'm thinking about our staff. You know, Renee's at the district office before the sun comes up. She's still there when the sun's going down. And then she's running here, and we're keeping her here to whenever. And same goes for AJ and all of his cabinet that come to these meetings. I think that if we can get our business done in 1 meeting a month, that frees them up to do the important work with kids, which is what we need them to be doing.
Thank you. Joe?
I completely agree with Trustee Walker. I had wanted to postpone considering that when we were in the process of vetting a new superintendent, you know, thinking that if it's somebody that's not familiar with the district, it might be nice to have that additional time to work with the superintendent to kind of expedite their, you know, getting used to working with the board and understanding the district and those kinds of things. And then eventually I would have proposed, hey, let's go to 1 meeting a month. The way the vote went with selecting a superintendent who's already familiar with our district, that need isn't, you know, there isn't that great need to do that. And so I think in respect for staff time and teachers' times and audience time, if we can be efficient and conduct our meetings, you know, conduct what we have to conduct in our meetings and take care of our business with 1 meeting a month, you know, I think we're ready to do that, in my opinion. So I'd be okay with that.
Laurel?
Just looking through our bylaw, because this is a first reading of it, I would think that the only change that would need to be made would be on page 2, section 4A, and just to say designated time, place, a day, place, and time for regular meetings, which shall occur at least once each month. So it'd just be crossing out twice and writing once. I do think we have the ability to call special meetings when needed. And I can think of a couple when we do the Employee of the Year recognition meeting. That would be a special meeting, and perhaps even the meeting to recognize retirees. Those might be a couple that we would have, a couple months where we might have 2 meetings, and those would be just special meetings rather than regular meetings.
And you know, another thing that we have entertained in the past, and maybe this is a good time to think about this with the new superintendent, is maybe that Employee of the Year ceremony, instead of being a board meeting, which is kind of awkward and ceremonial, it could really be a reception that's hosted by the district. And so we could just be there and applaud with the people instead of just sitting up there and watching from behind the microphone. You know what I'm saying?
I always thought that would be a neat thing for the foundation to take on, like they do in Washoe.
Any other, oh, go ahead,
President
Mr.
Varner,
Fields.
sorry, I just want to mention along the lines of what Trustee Crossman had mentioned. So with April, I guess it depends on how we would go and whatever, you know, we decide as, the board decides is fine. With that second meeting, if there is a second meeting. For sure in May, even if you would do something different for the recognition of the retirees, we still have the budget, and that by statute has to basically happen within like the last 2 weeks of May. So that would most certainly be a guaranteed special meeting that we would have to have each year, which is totally fine.
You could just schedule that in, because that's still at least 1 meeting a month. So knowing that when we make the calendar, you could just plan those meetings in May accordingly.
Sure. Yeah, actually, I didn't think about that. The other one I just wanted to mention as well. And I may need Mr. Russell's help with this, but if we get to this meeting on January 1st and it is decided to change this language to once a month, we know that the second meeting in we know we'll still have to have a second meeting in January because we already have a full agenda of items for that meeting. So how would that, I guess, so everyone's on the same page? Is it as simple as still just scheduling a meeting and?
Yeah, so what Trustee Crossman said is right. This is a first reading. If the board at the second reading decides to adopt the revised bylaw to go to at least 1 meeting a month, you're not precluded from having an extra. So if you already know in January you're going to need a second meeting, then you just calendar for it.
Okay.
So I do have a question on
Go
that
ahead,
time. If
Lupe.
we go with a meeting once a month, do we want to start at 6 instead of 7?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, and as a suggestion, I think it would be wise just to have that expectation. You can plan for it, you know that's the time. I think it would allow for then if we did have something that goes a little bit longer, at least it's not going until 11 o'clock or midnight.
Just for consideration, 6:30 might be a nice compromise. I mean, I know there's times that I've had something that I was rushing. I know that there's times Joe's kind of rushing in, or Stacy. Anybody with a job that doesn't get done until 6 o'clock, that at least gives them a half hour to get here. So I think that 6:30 might be a nice compromise for those of us who are still grinding away.
But still, to keep on task that doesn't have anything to do with this. But the other thing I'd like to bring up, as long as we're redoing this policy, we have on page 2, number B, we have the trustees have each of the following committees. I think we should add another section with the liaisons for schools, because we do that anyway, but it would be nice to have it in the actual policy at that first meeting when we appoint different trustees to different schools.
Yeah, we can certainly add that
And,
in.
didn't you bring up also, Superintendent, the JAC committee, the Joint Advisory Committee, it's on there? All right, good, thank you. Well, any other questions, concerns?
Just on that same note, I mean, because this foundation, it's the president, and so that might need to be specified. I mean, there's a couple times on my tenure here that we've had to remind the president, okay, you're on this one type deal, so maybe.
And also, these assignments, there are additional committees other than these. This is not exhaustive, but I don't think we need to put every committee in this document.
Mr. President,
Go ahead.
just for the board's information, when thinking about, I think the time just came up, bylaw 60 does talk about the board meetings being at 7 p.m. unless otherwise agreed to by the board. I don't think it requires an amendment to the bylaw necessarily, but you should be aware at least that it is out there that it's at 7 unless otherwise agreed to by the board.
And I don't think it's an issue, but this is a city building. We just have to confirm that if we thought we were going to move in that direction, that wouldn't create a conflict with anybody else the city has booked for this room.
Any other comments this time? I'm glad the second reading is going to be in January, where we have the 2 new board members, so they'll have some input in on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Now we'll move on to discussion and possible action to approve proposed changes to CCSD Policy 805, Emergency Operations of Schools. And this is a second reading, and it's for possible action and Superintendent Fueling.
Thank you, President Varner. In Policy 805, titled Emergency Operations of Schools, within the second paragraph, there is a note that the board recognizes an effective school emergency management plan. The last meeting of the Board of Trustees, this was presented to change that language to meet our current operating language, which is an emergency operations plan instead of the school emergency management plan. And that is the only change for this policy.
Any questions, comments from the board?
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Go
ahead.
I'll accept it. Go ahead.
Stacy would like to do it. Go
I
for
want to
it.
be on the scoreboard. Thank you very much. I move that the Carson City School Board School District Board of Trustees approve December 13th, 2022 as a revised date for Policy 805, Emergency Operations of Schools.
We have a motion by Stacy. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Walker. Any board discussion reference the motion? Seeing none, any public comment reference to the motion? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Fueling. Move on to agenda item number 13, discussion and possible action on a resolution to approve an augmented and amended budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 to include revisions for certified enrollment, audited fund balance, carry forward amounts, and recommended augmentations to specific funds. And this is for possible action, and Mr. Winward will be presenting.
All righty. Thank you, Mr. President. Good to be up here again. I'm talking about budgets can be exciting sometimes. If you don't share that and my voice gets monotonous, this gets boring. I wasn't the one who turned up the heat, so if you start to doze off, it's not my fault. So.
I did notice they set you up.
Warmer.
I said, I did notice they set you up. It instantly got warmer just a few minutes ago.
If you've been out in the hallway, it feels much nicer in here, so. We don't pay for the heat here, so crank it up. All right. So just take a look at our amended budget. Again, this is the one that's, I would say is the most important budget out of the year because a lot of the numbers from here are taken for future consideration on percentages of fund balances and whatnot. And there's just a few changes from the June budget. We'll just go ahead and get right into the highlights here. So first, just briefly going to talk about the average daily enrollment, our updated revenues, revisions we made to staffing costs in the budget throughout the general fund, a couple of comparisons from June's budget to this one. Spoiler, no change in general fund transfers. And then just to kind of take a look at what the deficit sits like. So that number of 5.2 million is a little eye-opening, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth. So the difference from June's budget to this one is we've updated our enrollment, which again, kind of like we expected, we're down a few more students. And we've built a budget anticipating that trend to continue, as has happened over the past couple of years. So with our updated enrollment, that is decreasing our budgeted revenue about $735,000. For general fund transfers, again, largest place where we send funds to is a special education fund. Class size reduction is 0. That's on there. That fund is really kind of defunct at this point, although there's still some statutes that say we have to do something for it. But at this point, we have no funds in there, no expenditures in there, and obviously won't be transferring any funds to there. Nutrition, as Stacy brought up earlier, we'll be transferring $0 to that again this year. We do anticipate to probably have an actual ending fund balance in that again, with more revenue than expenses over the course of the year. We did change in the nutrition fund we budgeted some additional funds for some equipment upgrades, kind of get caught up on maybe some deferred maintenance that you try and get a few more years out of something when you're running a deficit in a fund year in and year out. So we did make that change to the nutrition fund to unlock some of the funds that we have there. Summer school, again, this year will be completely covered by ESSER. We don't anticipate transferring any funds there. The restricted funds of PCFP for the English language, just shy of $400,000 will be transferred there. That's mostly salaries. These three funds, all mostly salaries, are what the expenditures are. GATE, Gifted and Talent, will be just shy of $90,000, and at-risk will be just shy of $400,000 as well. Again, there's no change from those budgeted from the June to this budget. Just for information, last year, our total transfers was $7.1 million, $900,000 what we budgeted now. The year before that was $8.5 million. Our budget is squarely in those. FY21 was previous to PCFP, so that might be why we have such a different jump in the numbers there of what we've transferred from the general fund to other funds. Any questions about that thus far? All right. Expenditures for the general fund. Difference from the June amended till now, we have about $2.2 million budgeted as expenditures. And that's a big reason why that deficit is looking so much higher, is because we've increased those fund expenditures. The majority of that is in years past. Mr. Fueling, if I'm understanding correctly, is he'll budget for all of our positions, including vacancies. But then by this time of the year, we have a pretty good handle on what vacancies are, and he'll scale that back by a calculated amount, knowing that we're not going to spend those funds. In this budget, we opted to take that back to 100% of those funds to show if all our positions were filled, this is what it would cost us. My personal opinion, I don't know that that does us any favors. If someone looks at our budget and doesn't really see a large deficit there, if they see this, they'll want to know why, and we can explain, well, if we had a body in every position, this is what it would cost us to run the district, and would give outside entities a little bit better picture of educational funding overall. General fund operating overall, again, our deficit at the June budget was $1.2 million. That's prior to the $1 million contingency. Our amended budget is $4.2 million without the $1 million contingency. That same number, just for to die out on what would be the Department of Taxation budget, it'd be $2.2 million on the amended budget, and on the amended final for December, it's $5.2 million with that contingency in there. And we also pushed the carry forward in that we rolled that over from the previous year. So another reason that we have increased the salary budgeted amount, salary and benefits,
is for the sweep. This is kind of new. This is information that was included in this last year, but if you notice the red red strikeout has changed from actual to budgeted. The legislatures determined that they use our budgeted ending fund balance for the December budget for determining if we have too much money and need to return it to the state. So as long as our budgeted ending fund balance for the December budget is under 16.6%, then they will not sweep those funds. And I take that back. It's not just our general fund. There's other funds in there that I'll get into in just a moment. So if you're curious where that 16.6 comes from, that's 2 months. So 2 divided by 12 equals your 16.6%. Really, when we budget, we just want to be between the 4%, which is the lowest it can be per statute. And personally, when I budget, I don't want to be anywhere close to that 16.6%. We don't want to get in a situation where they change the rules on us midstream and that possibly affect it. So for the PCFP balance, the funds that are included for this sweep, all of the funds, which include general fund, the 3 restricted funds, which is English language, general or gifted and talented, and at-risk funds, special education, nutrition services. Those are all the funds that combined cannot exceed that 16.6%. Again, over the last year or so, there's been a lot of confusion on what wasn't included in that. It's been clarified and as of now is understood to be those funds. So for FY23, we are sitting at 9.2%, which is a comfortable spot for where I'd like to see it. Just by way of information, the general fund itself is 11.55% of that. So as we do roll in those other funds, we'll end up with a zero fund balance, the restricted funds. That does generally bring that down. So something that you haven't seen over the last few budgets is a large deficit. A deficit is not new, but one so large, maybe not. So here's just a little bit of a breakdown. Our deficit's about $4 million higher on the amended budget, final amended budget in December than the one presented in June. And the line items that kind of affect that, the first one is that decrease in enrollment, that $735,000 revenue from our decrease in enrollment. The largest chunk of that is $1.3 million that we've increased our budgeted salary and benefits expense by. We put about $300,000 into operational safety and transportation increases. We're seeing more costs regarding safety as we have some equipment aging out and not hitting its end of life before its anticipated lifespan was up. And every time you turn around, a bus costs more considerably. So there's been companies that will issue a contract and then they'll say, never mind, if you want to keep this contract, it's going to be $15,000 more, or you can break it and then buy a bus at market rate, which will be $30,000 more. So that is not unique to any one single bus company, but they have not been immune to cost increase like the rest of the world. And then our carryover, the increase from what we had budgeted in June to now is about $500,000. So those amounts there are the difference of why we have an increase of $4 million in our deficit from June till now. And just a thing to note, the salaries and benefits expense, although we have that budgeted in there, we don't anticipate increased spending anywhere near that magnitude. It does also kind of give us a little bit of a strategic advantage where if we happen to have an unforeseen expenditure come up, having some of those funds put into every budget or every salary and benefits category, we spread that out throughout the general fund. So if we have an increase come up in diesel fuel, for example, if all of a sudden that goes to $7-8 a gallon and we overspend what we have budgeted there, we'll have some of that funds that per NRS and through proper notification of the board, we could shift funds within that program and that function. So that does give us a little bit of help there as well. But again, we aren't anticipating any higher salary and benefit costs than what we had in the June budget, but felt it was better to demonstrate what it would be like if we were running at 100% of capacity. A couple of notes about other funds. So again, those just kind of new last year, now this year, those 3 restricted funds that are part of the PCFP are separate on the budget. So that you'll see those will have their own revenue and expenditure pages, aren't included in the general fund or state grant tabs any longer. Our bond fund, which is Fund 360, the CIP, the construction progress, has been updated to match that. One key difference there is we have increased
the budget amount for the exterior painting of CHS by $250,000. We anticipate that project coming right around that cost. And this will allow us to get started on that prior to July 1. So really, we just rolled that forward from next fiscal year till this one.
We can make it a different color.
I vote blue. Like, put some blue, like that new sign out front. Just
Do we need
out
to
of-
consult Mr. Russell, see if that was
I'm
included in
just,
this
I'm just
agenda
throwing
item?
it out. Blue.
Blue is so
We're
expensive.
just saying.
I don't have an answer for you that one, I'm sorry. You'll have to continue to watch these from home at the comfort of your couch after to find out what happens. One other thing on the CIP, that the district-wide major maintenance, that's the remainder of our bond revenues that are unspent. We had a large chunk that was kind of set aside for a real estate purchase that is no longer going to happen. That's sitting there and will be, the facilities committee continues to always monitor projects upcoming and things are going to see where that would best be used. And then finally, our federal grants fund is still, we have several $1 million more than we usually do for revenues in there due to ESSER funds, so. Any questions?
So this budget then with that big deficit, that's the ESSER fundings, funds are factored into that already.
Yes, there are savings to our general fund from ESSER funds, I think would be safe to say. Our ESSER money and our federal grants are separate from all of the PCFP funds, but yes, those are factored into this.
Okay, and I guess two questions I have that can be answered at a later date too is, if we didn't have that ESSER funding, what would our deficit look like? This strategic budget, if you will, what would it look like? And with this trend, I mean, I know that funding is going to continue to decrease and go away. Where are we going to be next year?
Yeah, I wouldn't have an answer for you right away on
Yeah.
exactly what our general fund ending budget would look like without ESSER. Because in addition to having more funds available, we also have other costs that we have to, the strings that came attached to that, which fortunately were few, but still are some. That's something I could provide at a future board meeting or an update to all of the board.
That was my point, is just something to think about as we go forward, as you learn that kind of stuff. For me, it's curious. The percent of ending fund balance, that 11.55%, do you recall what that was last year?
I want to say it was around 14, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and keep in mind that is of budgeted numbers. We could look and see what the actual was, which with the actual and knowing that our general fund ended $990,000 higher, that percentage certainly would, the actual would go up to what was budgeted.
Any other comments or questions?
I mean, I guess I would just encourage, as we're looking at the budget and the impact of the average daily attendance on our bottom line, but also I think another thing that we've talked about the last couple cycles is, we don't have that money for raises for our employees. And I think that as we're heading into the legislature, I think that data on how long it's been since we've really been able to give a raise. If inflation is so high and we're giving 1%, which is offset by the retirement contributions, I mean, it's really, they're getting paid the same. And so I was watching about the transportation strike they were having, or they were going to have last week, and this guy was so outraged that they've gone, I think he said, 3 years with no raise. I was thinking, well, try to be a teacher in Nevada. It's been a lot longer than that. And so I think that our teachers, our support staff, our administrators, and it's been on the top of my mind. I was meeting with some teachers a couple weeks ago, and that was one of the things they were talking about. I was like, well, we don't have the money. Can't happen. So anyway, I'm just saying, in addition to this, I think we need to have our ducks in a row, and we need to advocate for a livable wage for our employees.
Any other comments, questions? No, Mike, I would disagree with you 100%. you know, whatever we can do for the teachers, we need to do. I'm also concerned about future years when ESSER money goes away. You know, we can't continue to operate with large deficits. So I'm sure that you're taking that into account as you do your future planning in years ahead. Any other questions or comments?
I think we're really fortunate. AJ, you've set us up well. I think that Spencer's able to step in and pick up where you left off. And so I feel comfortable with your guidance and your handling of the budget. And I think that going forward, this is going to be something that we're all going to have to really focus on.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, and I think it even goes beyond that. When we're talking about the legislative session, getting ready to gear up, it's maybe with Dan's help, and not that he hasn't done some of it already, is kind of a public information, public information about where we're at with this and what we need at the state level to get some support for K-12 education, because this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And-
Stacy, go ahead.
But on that note, we have 2 ex-school board members that got elected to the assembly.
Right.
So we're making progress here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, from the north.
Spencer, I'm curious, the absenteeism, does that count against our budgeted money from the state?
I may have to defer to Superintendent Fueling on that one.
So, absenteeism as far as student absenteeism?
Yes, student absenteeism.
So
I'm sorry.
the change, and actually there's some clarifying, part of an NDE bill that's going to be coming up. There's some language that has to be fully clarified throughout NRS, but it ultimately comes back to enrollment, not attendance. So if student is gone on a given day, it doesn't count against us. There are some states that do use average daily attendance, which would not be my suggestion, so.
No, that wouldn't be good.
Yeah. I do know the state is kind of, it seems like they're getting a little more firm on the student. You hadn't seen the students so long unenroll them, but it is based off enrollment, not ADE.
Good, thank you. Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, this is for action only, so I'll entertain a motion. Pardon? Don? Oh, I'm sorry. Lope, go ahead.
I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees adopt the augment and amended budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 by approving the resolution and instructing the Director of Fiscal Services to file the documents as necessary to comply with NRS Chapter 354.
Got a motion and a second. Any board discussion? Any public comment, discussion about the motion? Seeing none, go ahead and call for a vote. I'm sorry. Well, I can't hear you, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's on the motion. Thank you. Seeing no public comment at this time, we'll go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Spencer.
Thank you.
We'll move on to agenda item 14, informational update on the 2023 legislative session bill draft request, Senate Bill 46, SB 46, submitted from the Carson City School District. For discussion only, Superintendent Fueling.
Thank you, President Varner and trustees. As you are aware, at a board meeting, I believe back in August, you approved, I guess, an application of sorts to file a bill draft request allowing, kind of the basic premise at that time was if there were some innovative ideas or innovative plan that we would have as a district that otherwise maybe parts of it or one thing or all of it would conflict with current state law, it would allow us to request an exemption from that law in order to execute what we would like to do. So you approve that. The application was submitted then to the Legislative Counsel Bureau. Legislative Counsel Bureau, a couple weeks following that, got back to me and noted that within current NRS 388G, there is a section, there was a section, or is a section entitled Empowerment Schools. And it ended up that back in 2007, when that was passed, there was this law. I think in some effect it was one of the earlier versions of kind of allowing schools, especially down south. There's always talk about the breakup of Clark County, but it allowed schools maybe to in some way separate, to have a separate budget. And it was a really, really complicated process, but it would allow them, if they wanted to, there was a provision in there to exempt themselves from certain state law. And so LCB, when they got back to me, said, well, you may want to look at this because maybe this meets everything you're already looking for. And there are some things that were similar to what we were looking for. It was incredibly complicated and time consuming to even get to a point where you could become an empowerment school in that old language. And truly it only affected a school. And we were looking for something bigger at the district level. So working with LCB, we effectively gutted 388G for the most part and inserted more along the lines of what we were looking for. So the final version of that, which will be Senate Bill 46, is here before you. And really thanks to LCB, the help in putting this together. They're legal folks, they're good at speaking a language that I'm not always so comfortable with, so I appreciate that help. What I would note, just looking at the actual language of the bill, and I'll just kind of at a high level take you through the steps of it, and then if you have any questions, we can discuss those. Basically, step one is a school board will direct the creation of what would be called an empowerment plan for an empowerment district. This would be, there's two ways that can happen. So that direction would happen, and then either the direction would be you need to create an empowerment team, which within the bill under section 2, was that section 2.2? It lays out who the members of that team would have to be. Otherwise, the school board can say, hey, superintendent, we want you to create this. And it's just done internally. So there's two options as to how this plan could be created, and the school board decides how that would happen. That plan, what it may do, if you look at section 2.5, which is on page 5, it says the empowerment plan developed pursuant to subsection 4 must include, and it lists through a comprehensive educational operational program, and then there's numbers, the sub-pieces below that may include innovative curriculum and instructional methods, provisions regarding community participation, campus governance, and parental involvement, modifications to the school day or the year, provisions regarding the budget of the school district and funding for the programs of the school district, accountability and assessment measures, any other innovation determined to be appropriate by the superintendent of the school district. And then on the next page, this is really the important piece for the waiver from law. So a request for a waiver from any provision of this title or any regulation adopted pursuant thereto, which the superintendent superintendent determines would hinder the implementation or prevent the school district from achieving the goals of the comprehensive educational and operational program required by paragraph A. So you can request this waiver from law. And as I understood and I clarified, so this would be anything related to NRS, NAC, and even state board regulation, any of those things we could ask for. So once that plan is created, it would then have to go to the school board for consideration. The school board can approve it or deny it. If the school board approves it, it can be approved for up to 5 years. And if it is denied, there is an opportunity for the superintendent or the team to go back and work to, reconsider whatever the concerns of the school board would be, and then we would bring that back again for consideration, potentially. If a plan is approved, there is you can amend it, effectively following kind of the same process that you went through in creating it. So that's a good option just a couple years down the road. If something else were to come up, it would be easy enough to make that adjustment to it. Under section 3, sub 6 on page 8, it's that 6, there's a 7 struck out and a 6, blue 6 right in the middle of the page. It notes that if there is a request for the waiver from state law, that it then must go to the state board, and the state board being the State Board of Education. So one of the concerns, I didn't really want this step. That is not the original law I referenced, that Texas has something similar to this. There is no step of going back to the state and saying, hey, is this okay? But what I was advised on is that with the constitutional provision of providing a uniform system of schools, that if there wasn't some step going back to the state to say, is it okay for us to exempt ourselves here, that could potentially be considered a violation of our allowing for a non-uniform system of schools, which would then be unconstitutional. So that's why that step was put in there. So the state board, then with that request, they can approve it or deny it. If they deny it, they have to notify the school board, and we have the opportunity to resubmit. If they approve it, then they will notify you that it's been approved. And then we have, regardless of if it is a plan that asks for an exemption from law or not, if a plan is approved, it needs to be posted on the website, so it's very visible and all can see. And then there's an annual report that would have to be completed by myself, given to you, and then that report would then be submitted annually to the governor, NDE, and the Joint Standing Committee on Education. So there's opportunities within this, there's checks and balances, I think, within this. I'm excited that we've gotten to this point and to see where it goes, and this will definitely be a learning experience for us to go through this process. I will say that at the superintendent's meetings, we talk about some of the other districts have bills as well, and this has been, generally there's support for the idea of it. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, so I have two. So one is, so in my mind, this is kind of like what Clark County does, so an SOT, right? So, but it's for the district.
I have no idea what a SOT is.
So school operating team.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I guess my question is, or my thought is, there could come those gray lines where it's like, if this team, this empowerment team, wants to do something that's contrary to what the board wants, is there going to be a push and pull? If that makes
Sure.
sense.
So this, there is no, within this, the way 388G was originally written, it really was about schools being able to do something outside of what the district or state may be approved. This is purely at the district level. There is no school autonomy within this. I think there's actually language in here that says that the schools must follow whatever this plan is. So I'm actually surprised that didn't come up when we were discussing this with the superintendents. I wasn't aware of that. And that it's interesting because that almost sounds like what the empowerment school piece was, maybe to some extent, and maybe not quite as powerful, because it was surprising to see what was within here for these empowerment schools as it currently exists.
Well, like some of the controversy is, you know, how the collective bargaining agreements go if a teacher is riffed at a school, so overaged. And so then, you know, there's controversy of, does that school have to approve that employee, or can they hire whoever they want, even though they have a contract? Or another thing that's been coming up, I think we've spent a lot of time hearing about grounds maintenance. And so, but this sounds a little different to me. But the other question I have is question 4A. So if the board says no to the empowerment plan, it says the trustees will submit in writing the reason why to the superintendent. So who's going to do that?
Page 7. Maybe you. I guess it's not defined. I would expect, so there has to be a school board designee that is a part of this. And so if it is communicated that it is not approved, I would say that designee is probably responsible for bringing that message back and explain, you know, written message, but explaining what the concern was and moving from there.
Yeah.
Mike, above that, it says that the president of the Board of Trustees and the superintendent shall both sign the empowerment plan if they agree to it. So if they deny it, I would assume it'd also be the board president. That written statement.
My thought is, you know, best laid plans, and then you get a president who's like, I'm not writing that. You know what I'm saying? Because they wanted the empowerment plan or whatever.
Any other comments or questions? Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea. I'm just in my head wondering what conversations you've had with the other superintendents. It seems like a lot of effort to tell the state, hey, we don't want to follow your rules, and then we submit this to them and they say, who cares? You're going to.
Right.
It's like, hey, hey, mom and dad, I just talked to my siblings and we don't like our chores. We don't want to do them. And mom and dad say, too bad, get it done.
I feel like we get a lot of too bads right now with some of these things. So agreed. You know, that's where I really would have liked to have that state board piece not being there. I think it would have simplified it even more. I guess I kind of understand the concern, but I made the case that, you know, I don't think revenue distribution and opportunities are uniform in this state, and they told me that revenue has nothing to do with it. So it's more about programs. So I think if anything, it's really the important thing to me is just that there's some opportunity, and that's where, you know, it's hard. You know, we have conversations. We've had conversations about things. You know, and we have a couple ideas of things that, you know, would be nice that would probably help our cause. But you know, we talk about things like what could you take away, or like what are some things that would kind of lift a burden from the district or some folks in the district. And it's hard sometimes because I think we've never really had the opportunity to really think about that. And so I feel like there's like a glimmer of hope with actually giving us an opportunity to have a real conversation about what do we really value and or what do we really value and what do we really want? And then, what are those things that get in our way? And what is it that makes life harder for the district and life harder for our staff in various ways, and especially if there are things that we don't necessarily see value in. And I think too, it allows us to make a mistake and be wrong. I mean, there are things that we may think would be a really good idea, and at least we have the opportunity to try it out. And if it doesn't work, then the board may come back to me, or I may come to you and say, hey, this isn't working, we want to amend it. Or the board may come back and say, hey, we're getting some bad feedback, we really think this is something we should pull. But at least that opportunity exists.
And I think going forward, if you really think about this, so with the work the state's doing on the Portrait of a Learner program, and really that taking students where they are and advancing them. And I'm thinking a perfect example is Stella Thornton today. So a plan like this might allow us to give credit for, that girl's writing legislation in high school. So whether it's elective credit, it's credit towards CTE coursework, whatever it might be, that might give us a little bit of freedom, because for these programs to make these changes that they're trying to make, we're going to need some flexibility. Because our system doesn't allow for too much leeway either way.
Any other comments or questions? I just thank you for your work on this project. I think anything we can do to potentially lessen some of the burden on the staff and give the district more flexibility is a good thing. And I'm wondering, do we have any, for lack of a better term, champion for this bill? Any legislator that's come forward to say, yeah, we think this is a great idea, we're willing to help?
Not yet. Now that it's kind of done, I think I'll work with, so we within NASB, the Nevada Association of School Superintendents, there's a lobbyist for that group. It happens to be Mary Brzezinski, who was superintendent 2 ago. So I'll be working with, she's been through so many sessions and seen so much of this. I'll be relying on her to kind of give us some guidance, but we certainly will try to find someone or several people to help us out. And truly, if not, I mean, I think because something reasonably similar existed in law already, it at least should come across to lawmakers as not entirely crazy, right? Because it was kind of there, sort of, in a different way. And so hopefully that would help in the conversations, and maybe there would be, and maybe it's just time. I think there's a lot of frustration out there with some of the overburdensome ways of the state, and so maybe there would be someone or a couple that would be willing to support us, but no one yet. That was a long answer to no one yet.
Okay, thank you.
Probably some concrete examples of what types of programs you would do with something like this, instead of it being kind of nebulous.
All right, any other questions? If not, we'll go ahead and move on. Thank you, Superintendent Fueling. We'll move on to agenda item number 15, discussion and possible action to adopt a resolution in support of Invest 2023, a document created by the Nevada superintendents outlining the needs to improve student achievement in Nevada. And this is for possible action. And again, Superintendent Fueling.
Thank you, President Varner. So each year, each legislative year since 2003, NAS has put together a document called INVEST, standing for Investing in Nevada's Education, Students, and Teachers. This document has evolved quite a bit over the years, but ultimately it lays like what are those common things amongst all school districts that we feel is needed to move education forward in the state. And having this as it hasn't always been a one-pager, but that's really what we've tried to get it down to. I know some versions I saw previously, I think there were 4 or 5, 6 pages, and that's something that for legislators who are inundated and have more to read than they really have time to read, was something that was a move we made to try to whittle it down to just kind of these key pieces. So in this document, on the first page, it kind of gives a history and talking kind of high level with funding, what has been going on over the past years. And you have to remember, you've heard about this over the last years, about the changes with funding and the impacts of it. And so you at least have some high level understanding of what has been going on. Many of our legislators are brand new, and they have absolutely no idea. This is not an area they have had any interest in, but ultimately they're going to have a vote in it. So providing some of that backdrop for them so that they can at least ask questions if they are interested. The second page then lays out what are those key pieces within kind of the purview, I guess, of the legislature to maybe make some changes. The first, and I'll just kind of go over these bullet points, but the first one is really just about funding. And in years past, kind of the call for for districts and the superintendents was fund the base, fund the base, fund the base. And now that things have gone to the PCFP base, just that term, it means a lot of things and it gets a little confusing, but ultimately just saying we need to increase funding. And there's a specific reference then to a report that the Commission on School Funding released in November. And in that report, it basically says that, look, if you want to have education meet all of the requirements and outcomes that the state has set before it, you would have to provide about $3 billion additionally in funding each year. And so the Commission on School Funding, part of in its creation, what it was told to do is if it wants to put forth a recommendation of what adequate or optimal funding is for the state for education, to then look at how you would get on a path to make that happen within 10 years. And so about $3 billion over 10 years divided out. So that's where in that first bullet point it says $270.8 million in new funding for FY24. And then the idea, if you follow that report, is really adding to that every single year for 10 years. I will note that if you saw, I'm sure you didn't, but the Economic Forum met and gave their report on I think it was the 1st of December. I don't know if that's right, but and that's a really important report because the governor has to build his budget off of what this group says are the projected revenues for the state, and it's like a 22% increase that they're projecting for next year, going from $9.1 billion for the biennium to $11.4 billion for the biennium. So that additional $2.3 billion, there's more within the state budget than just K-12 education. So there's clearly going to be some fighting for some of those dollars, but at least we know the state has an opportunity, and we can see how much they value something like this, this recommendation, and ultimately K-12 education. Next bullet point, just funding the weights. So if you remember, within the pupil-centered funding plan, as Spencer mentioned, there's all these different funds that we have. Those represent the weighted categories for students. We are not yet at the aspiring weight for English learners, which is an extra 0.3. If you recall, every student is basically a 1.0 and you get a per pupil amount for them. But for English learners, there would be an extra 0.3 attached to them. So there would be this extra funding generated to provide services. Students that are at risk, it would be a 0.5. And again, that's aspirational. So we're not anywhere near those numbers yet. And so trying to get the recognition to get to those numbers as soon as possible, so we can offer the appropriate level of support for those kiddos. Modernize educational statutes. That's actually a part of Washoe County School District's BDR that they're putting forth to go through. Much of our educational statute has been around since the 70s and hasn't really changed much, even earlier. So going back through some of that and updating it. Enable schools to be technology rich, so just devices and internet. That I would not be surprised if that came out as a categorical grant during the session. I wouldn't be excited about it being a categorical grant because we just kind of got away from that. But I could see the legislature saying, look, we believe internet and access and devices should be in every kid's hands. And so we are going to give every district X amount of dollars. So we'll see. But I certainly would support having some more funding to help us with that. That's one thing we put together, that entire schedule of trying to replace Chromebooks over the years. And when state funding fell behind in 2018, I think it was, we basically had to go to grants to try to fund this. And so just this ongoing concern of when is that going to run dry and kind of put us in a bad place. School safety and mental health is a growing concern, so that is mentioned. And then capital funding, and this really impacts the rural schools more than anything. I always mention White Pine School District has 2 schools that are over 100 years old. Carson City School District, Mrs. Fuson and I were just talking about this. Bordewick Bray is nearing 100 years old, I think, but we don't know exactly that start date. But the reality of even if Carson City doesn't need to ever build another school, we have a lot of maintenance. We have over 1 million square feet of space, and a lot of our buildings are older. The youngest school we have was built in 1992, and that's Fremont and Mark Twain. And really, the large expansion of Carson High School happened in 1992 as well. So just our buildings are getting older. So recognizing that not only for new construction, but significant maintenance, and there's really kind of some inequity with how available that funding is depending on where you are in the state and the size of your tax base. So trying to recognize that. But that's the document that's been approved by NAS, and NAS is asking that every school board at least consider supporting it, and they've provided a resolution, I guess, expressing that approval. I've had no pressure. I don't want to put undue pressure on this, but I've been getting several texts tonight from superintendents around the state telling me that their boards are approving it. So I'm just letting you know.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from the board? Mike?
I think that we would be foolish not to support this. And I think that one of the things that the superintendents are doing that I think is a great idea is they're trying to align not only school boards and superintendents, but they've sent it to NASB. And so we talked about that at our last meeting. The state board has discussed something similar. And, I think one of the things that the state board had in there that I don't see in this document, but even if with that money to increase safety and mental health professionals, if there's nobody to hire, so we also have to work on our pipeline. And so that's that's gonna mean that we're gonna have to compensate people for their time and effort, and those are tough jobs. So I mean, I'm in support of this.
Thank you. Any other comments?
We've done this in the past, and I think it shows a united front, especially to the legislatures, to have the school boards, the superintendents, and the Association for School Boards on top. So I think you guys have done a great job of doing the bullets, so there's not a whole lot to read, which I think is going to be important this session. So I'm totally for it too.
Joe?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Yeah, I just add that I'm fully supportive of it. So if you want to make a motion, go ahead.
I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees adopt as submitted the resolution in support of Invest 2023.
Wilkie, second.
Have a motion and a second. Any board comment reference the motion? Seeing none. Any public comment reference the motion? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item number 16. Discussion and possible action on the superintendent's annual evaluation for the 2022 calendar year. And this is for possible action. And I will be presenting. But I wanted to spend a few minutes for the people who may be watching or public who may be hearing this to kind of cover briefly the process that was used. And I also want people to keep in mind that this evaluation only covers the first 6 months of Mr. Fielding's employment as a superintendent. And the evaluation covered 9 performance standards. Each standard has 5 possible numerical ratings, these being 0 to 4, 0 being unsatisfactory, 1 is need to improve, 2 satisfactory, 3 very satisfactory, and 4 superior. The trustees rated each performance standards from 0 to 4. The combined scores were then added together and divided by 7, which is the number of the trustees, for an average score. The score was then rounded up or down to the nearest whole number. The trustees were also able to add comments for each rating given. And this process was repeated for each performance standard. The 9 scores were then added together for the overall rating. And at this time, I'll go ahead and go through each performance standard and give the rating that was achieved or given by the trustees. The first performance standard is leadership and district culture. And underneath there, I think everybody out in the public has access to this, so I'm not going to read all the bullet points that are there for the time factor. But the average rating given by the trustees averaged 2.43. And this is, the rounded average was 2, which gave a rating of satisfactory. The second performance standard is the employer-superintendent relations. And the average was 2.71, and that was rounded up to the average of 3, which gave a very satisfactory rating. It's kind of awkward, so I apologize. The next performance standard was community relations and communication. The average was 2.71, which is rounded up to an average of 3. And this gave a very satisfactory rating. The next performance standard was organizational management. The average given of the rating was 2.57, and this was rounded up to 3 for a very satisfactory rating. Next performance standard, instructional leadership, professional and leadership development. The average was 2.43. The rounded average was 2. On the rating was given as very satisfactory, however, that should be satisfactory. And that'll be changed. Next is human resources management / staff and professional relations. The average of the rating given was 2.57, and this was rounded up to 3, which gave a very satisfactory rating. Values and ethics leadership is the next performance standard. The average was 3. The rounded average naturally would be 3, which resulted in a very satisfactory rating. Next performance standard, financial management and business matters. The average given the rating was 3.43, rounded down to 3, resulted in a very satisfactory rating. The next performance standard, management and implementation of strategic plan. Average rating 2.71, rounded average was 3, resulted in a very satisfactory rating. Then if you add all the numbers together, you get an average of 27.56 and rounded up to 25. If so, an overall rating for his performance was satisfactory. I'll just open up for any comments or questions at this time. Joe?
No, it's always interesting to go through this process, and this was more interesting because it's really so premature. We're looking at things that I think Mr. Fueling is on a very good start. He just hasn't had the benefit of being able to, get through everything he's trying to get through, and I think we can expect, I'm excited about the future. I think Superintendent Fueling is going to do, is going to represent us really well, and his cabinet's in support of him, and, it's just tough to go through these things when you just don't have a lot of information yet, but I think it's a good start. Satisfactory is if you have to start somewhere, it's good because I see him just projecting up as he goes. And I'm excited to work with him.
Thank you. What I'd mentioned to the public, if they want, I would encourage them to read the comments that were made by the trustees. I think it provides more light on the evaluation. And there's just a lot of comments, so it'd be very time-consuming for us to read them right now. But I also agree, I think a satisfactory rating for being only 6 months into the job is not a bad thing. We all know that whenever you've been in a job for only 6 months, there's always room for improvement as you gain knowledge of the job. And I think Mr. Fueling is doing a very good job at this point.
It's weird to see a lot of 2s, and I felt bad, but going through that, there's some areas that seeing everybody's stuff all together, like I'm thinking in some areas were we too tough, like fiscal management. I'm almost certain that we always gave Rich superior with that, which was AJ's work. And so he's very superior, but I mean, you know, and that's not taking anything away from Mr. Stokes. I'm just saying that, you know, it's, you know, are we being cautious because he's new? And there's some things that when I looked at it, for instance, one of the concerns I've had for many years was around human resources and the information that employees would call me with, and you know what I mean, concerns that I'd bring to the superintendent. And I, for one, haven't been getting those. And I'm seeing proactive steps to address shortages. And so, you know, I really think that for 6 months in such tough times, truly AJ has done a very satisfactory job. And so he's on the high end of satisfactory. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would like to recognize his hard work. He's been a stable force for this district. He has the backing of all employee groups. And so my take is I'd say AJ has done a very satisfactory job so far.
Yeah, like I said, I think he's done a very good job so far. If you look at some of the ratings, they're not all 2s. There are some 4s, some 3s. And I think people did recognize, you know, his hard work by giving him those scores. And I don't think, like I said, for only being 6 months into a new position, it's not needing improvement. You know, he's satisfactory, on the high end of satisfactory, if not very satisfactory, like you said. And I'm looking for great things as we move forward. And we'll evaluate, I guess, in December again, or do we have to do a yearly one? His contract says each December. Yeah, so yearly, so you got a year. But anyway, any other questions or comments?
Right. I was just going to say, I agree with Trustee Walker. I think maybe there were areas that I thought we don't, you know, some of the ones when I was like, we're not here on this yet, so I can't really say on that. So I did say satisfactory, but there's human resources, the legislative initiative, the staffing initiative to get ahead of, and the foresight to see, hey, we need to declare critical need so that we can get positions filled to start the year. Those are really good things. So I wish our ratings showed a little bit more, because I lean towards wanting it to be very satisfactory. So I think there's many areas, AJ, your involvement in the community and the energy that I see at school sites and with parents and volunteers, it's a real revitalized energy in the district. And I think that maybe it was a little early, we were a little hard, but I feel like you're doing great things and really on the right path.
Well, sorry, can I? I'm going to say it. I'll just jump in. No, when I read the comments from the other trustees and whatnot, I mean, that's the sense I got from this is great first steps, you know, got his feet under him really quick. The listening tour, I think, was fabulous, and it was a success. I think the next step is people are going, okay, what are we going to do with it? Which is a natural thought process. But I think that's probably, you know, when I just read everybody's comments, that's the sense I got is this looks great. It's kind of too early to assess how it's going. And that was the difference. It wasn't for me. I think if I had mine up, he was the next level up. But, you know, he's doing the right things. And I don't think a satisfactory rating 6 months into a position is a negative reflection on him at all. I'm completely impressed. I think it's a great start.
I agree, Joe. And I'm looking at my own scores and reflecting and reading those comments. And I was like, you know what? I probably could have gone here. So, I mean, I felt bad because I think you've done a great job, AJ. And I just want you to know that I think you've done a great job.
Lupe, I think you had
Yes,
something.
definitely. So I just want to say I did give some twos, but I also made an effort of including comments because I really wanted him to know I really want you to know how impressed I am with your progress that you made thus far. For me, it was hard to evaluate you because it was only 6 months based on the overall year. So I am looking forward to next year's evaluation, but I definitely want you to know that I am very impressed with how you have picked up where Mr. Stokes left off, and also hearing the comments from the staff in the school district have been very, very positive. So again, you're doing a wonderful job.
Stacy?
I agree. I think I'm probably the one that brought down the average, and I'm sorry about that, AJ. But as a manager, you always start at that one line, and so only having 6 months of information, plus I want to make you work harder the next 12 months because I won't be here. So that was my incentive. The other thing is I'm really looking forward to the new one where we actually have some data points and we don't have all this wishy-washy, it looks really good to me, but it doesn't look good to me kind of thing. So I'm excited about that. I also want to congratulate you on making through your first public evaluation. You're handling it very well.
Any other comments at this time? Yeah, I'll just reiterate, don't feel bad about a satisfactory. I think there's no shame in that. I think 6 months in the job, you did not get any need improvement. So I think that's a good thing. No unsatisfactory at all, so I think overall it's not a bad evaluation. And I appreciate everybody's attention to detail when you did this and your thought that went into it. And I just want the public to know that each trustee took this very seriously and tried to do the best evaluation with the limited time that you've been in the job that could be done. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. So at this time, any other board discussion? Seeing none, at this time, I'll go ahead and call for a motion. Stacy?
In my head. I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees deem the overall rating of Mr. Andrew Fueling, Superintendent of the Carson City School Board District, to be satisfactory for the calendar year 2022.
Do we have a second? Second by Joe. Any board discussion? Mr. Fueling, or any public comment on the motion? Please come forward and state your name for the record. And this would be on the evaluation.
Yes, thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
President and board members. Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. I got here late. I apologize. I did listen to some while I was outside, and that's why I jumped in, because I only heard the part that said public. And I want you to know how much I appreciate the fact that you even are holding up as well as you are, considering all. But you've got great people to work with. And I think with time under your feet and a little bit more comfort, perhaps, I'm really just really pleased. And I can't evaluate on all the things that you have because I'm not sure what your list was. I'm sorry, I didn't quite get to that point of understanding. But thank you very much for your work thus far and look forward to seeing how things progress. You're in a spot. This is tough times on everything, everybody, every organization talking about funding for streets and this and that. Schools are just not getting the attention they need. I'd love to see the legislature really consider how they fund the states specifically. I'm really sorry that they have it required that you've got to have enough kids at school. That's how they judge things. Well, teachers have to be there, well, buildings have to be there, and you have to be there. And they're just not helping. So we all got to encourage our legislative panel to help you out, and all of you and all of us as a Carson City resident. Thank you so much.
Good, thank you for your comments. Mr. Fueling, do you have any comments?
I would just like to thank 1,200 people in the school district for making me look good. They do great work every day. In particular, even Mr. Russell, he helps quite a bit. Thank you to that young lady over there. And I have Mrs. Fuson and Spencer. And I'll even throw in Mr. Wallace and Jessica and Dan Davis. It's a team effort. So, and Mr. Sadler, who is at home this evening. Sorry, no, he's at a concert. I apologize this evening. He's done great work. So I get just thanks to everyone else and thank you. I'm in no way offended with the satisfactory. I would very likely be in the exact same position as you if I was on the other side trying to figure out how to do this within a 6-month kind of time frame. So thank you.
Thank you. And once again, great job. This time I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to agenda item number 17, approval of the consent agenda. This is for possible action. I think everybody's reviewed that. So Don?
I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
We got a motion, a second. And any board discussion on the motion? Seeing none, any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The motion carries. Thank you. Move on to agenda item number 18, which is the informational items. This discussion only and no action will be taken. I think everybody's had a chance to review those. So without belaboring the point, we'll just go ahead and move on unless there's any concerns, questions. Seeing none. Agenda item number 19, request for future agenda topics. Mike?
You know, this summer, we had a couple meetings where, maybe it was even last spring, Mr. Stokes talked about that development that's going up by the high school. And they were negotiating, donating land for a school, but they needed a relief street, an easement behind like where that old Subway was or where the casino was over Gold Dust. So maybe an update on that, or if any of these developers that feels like we have a development on every corner, if anybody's working with the school district to provide land or whatever for building schools.
Okay, thank you. Any other future agenda topics? Seeing none. This is what I've been waiting for. We'll go ahead and call for adjournment. And the time is 9:11. Thank you, guys, and thank all the public if anybody's watching. And I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.